What's Good podcast.
Are you ready?
Your number one source
to all the keys in the industry.
With Brianna Jovahn.
It's the What's Good podcast.
What's good? Hey, ladies and gents, this is your girl Brianna Jovahn, and we are here with another episode of What's Good podcast. We are still here in season 8. We are doing real estate, and we have Mesha Miller. How are you?
I'm well, and yourself?
Doing amazing. Thank you so much for asking. And so, as you guys know, we do not have interviews. We have genuine conversations. So let's go ahead and get into it. We have an icebreaker. Are you ready for your icebreaker?
I am.
So your icebreaker is, in the world of mortgage loans and flipping houses, I have to ask, if you could flip any famous house from a movie or TV show, which one would it be and why?
I'm gonna say the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air house, and the only reason I'm gonna say that is because I have recently been watching Bel-Air,
Mhm.
and I always think about the old original house. So I would flip that house. Why? Because it's huge, it's famous, everybody knows it. It'd be fun to recreate kicking somebody out the front door and then entering and looking at what I've done inside.
Okay, you already think about the marketing of it. So I love that. All right, so we're going to go ahead and get into our genuine conversation. So, with that being stated, who is Mesha?
Mesha is by profession a mortgage advisor, but as a person, I am resourceful. And what that means to me is that I've always been able to help myself and others solve complex or simple problems just by being resourceful, just by finding the answers. Not that I have all of them, but being able to find the answers, knowing what I don't know, being okay with what I don't know, and then sharing the information that I have with others.
I love that. So, when did you start to realize that you are resourceful, pretty much the plug when it comes to information? When did you have that pivotal moment to know, okay, I am that girl?
I don't, maybe on the subconscious level, but I think back to, and this was, I'm gonna date myself now. We didn't have Google and Cliff Notes and all that stuff online where you could go and cheat with class, right? So when you had a book report, you had to read the book, or when you had stuff to look up, you had to pull out your encyclopedias and go to the library and do your reports that way. Well, I realized that I was resourceful because I would often get away with writing book reports for books that I didn't read,
Nice.
or
Nice. You made it
always
work.
been pretty resourceful.
Nice. So, how did you get into real estate, getting into mortgage, things of that nature?
It was 15, 16 years before getting into real estate. But how I got into real estate is that I kind of fell into it after I was laid off. So I was working for a charter school organization in Houston, and they basically folded up our whole department. And so they eliminated all of the positions in our department. And so that left me unemployed in a place that I didn't have a lot of connections, because I had relocated from California to Texas. So I didn't have the usual, people I could call that worked in the charter school world and get something else. And so I thought, while I'm unemployed, because I was being paid for a few months as well, I'm going to go ahead and study for my real estate license. I just felt like I needed to accomplish something while I had that downtime. So I got my real estate license, and I just couldn't get a job. I looked, I interviewed, I had never, it hit me like a ton of bricks, because I had never worked that hard to still not find a job. So I started working in real estate to make it work. I would do transaction coordinating. I would be a showing agent for other agents, and just kind of got into a routine where I could substantiate doing it full time by way of piecemealing my own deals with the work that I was doing on the side for other realtors. And honestly, for a while, just no matter if I would passively look for jobs like here or there, and they just wouldn't come. But my prayer the whole time would be that open up doors that are to be open and leave doors closed that were supposed to stay closed. And so I guess the job is one of those doors that was supposed to stay closed. And that one did not open for several years later.
No, you're good.
Question. Into mortgage because I am the type of person that likes to educate buyers, understanding what DTI is and understanding their mortgage options, and like tying process. My operations kind of came into the real estate work, and kind of like how to get somebody from step A, all the way to Z, and all of the pieces step by step that it took to get there. And a big piece that was missing for me as a realtor was being able to be informative on the financial part of the purchase.
Mm.
And so I studied and got my mortgage license and then got into mortgages about 3 years ago.
So, would you consider that being a specialty as far as being a mortgage advisor? Because you're still a part of real estate, but you're just being more
Mhm.
informed about the step-by-step process of home ownership, right?
Yeah, I think what makes me not so necessarily unique because there's a lot of dual mortgage professionals and realtors, but I think what makes one of my value propositions is that I have a deep understanding of the process from every facet. So, being a buyer, being a realtor, being in mortgages. And so I'm kind of able to have that empathetic ear for all of the people who kind of carry the purchase from start to finish.
Mm.
It helps me kind of understand how to work with realtors as well because I understand the frustration of not having communication, be it good or bad.
Mhm.
And you're not able to have the confidence with your buyer when you don't have the information you need about what's going on the financial side of the purchase.
When do they come to you in this whole process?
So hopefully they come to me first. And if you come to a realtor, most realtors are experts in having a team ready. They do have lenders that they could connect you with. So honestly, go where you feel comfortable first. I would say that. But the reason I say go to mortgage first is because you don't want to get an idea in your head that you can't bring to fruition. So like you really want to know how much home you can afford. You want to know if you're ready to get a mortgage. You want to know if you're going to be qualified for a mortgage. And honestly, it's a service to your realtor when you come ready. Like they know what your max purchase price is. They know that you're pre-qualified. They can take you shopping, drive all those miles in their car, knowing that you can close that transaction versus, they're meeting you, getting an idea of what you want, what you like, but they don't not quite know what you can afford. So
Mm.
I would say get with your mortgage professional first, unless you're already comfortable and have been establishing a relationship with your realtor, then obviously you should go there first.
I'm a new client. I know I have this idea of buying a house. You're my first person to go to, right? Based on the process. What do I need to bring to you? Is it finances? Is it bank statements? What does the initial consultation look like?
I'm going to say something outside of all of the paperwork and the financial documents that you should bring. Bring your honesty, right?
Mm.
Because when you're completely honest with your mortgage advisor, they are often able to guide you the right way towards the right product so that you can successfully qualify for that product and then close it. If you haven't been on your job that long, tell them you haven't been on your job. If you had a gap, let them know that you've had a gap. If you had a bankruptcy a few years ago, just be comfortable enough to tell the truth about your situation and then get the guidance for the product. And the product will dictate what all you'll need. So you definitely need 2 years of what your 2 years of work history is. And I say that with an asterisk because if you were in college, that counts. But yeah, so you want your W-2s, bank statements, tax returns, the typical financial documents, but that could change based on the product.
Okay, so let's say I come to you, I'm giving you all this information, right? I have minimal money, minimal, right? What type of resources can you provide to help people come from here to here with this big idea, making sure that it may not be 100% of what you want, but since this is your
Mhm.
first time investing into a home, these resources are available to make sure we can at least get you into that first step of, of course, looking at a home and seeing what's available for you.
Right. So understanding that sometimes when you come to me, you may have a dream home in mind, but that might not be your first home. That first home could possibly be leveraged later on to get you to that dream home. So, but even things like just being able to maximize their DTI by way of certain grants, certain loan products and programs that they might qualify based on their income or where they live, the zip code they're moving from. When I get an application in, I'll look see what the income is, where their current address is to see if they qualify for something special based on the zip that they're moving from, get an idea of where they're looking or their idea of where they want to look, see if there's any special programs in that area. Because all of those things can help you qualify for more home by way of a lower interest rate or being able to buy down your interest rate, etc. So I'll help them qualify for as much as they can afford. And then let's talk about that dream home that you want. That might be 10 years down the line, and here's how you could get there. You could leverage a FHA and buy a 1 through 4 unit complex, rent out the others, become, a landlord while you're building up enough funds and equity and all of that so that you can later leverage that to get that dream, to get that Fresh Prince of Bel Air house that you
I know
want.
that's right. And so you mentioned it a few times, DTI. What is that?
Yeah, so DTI is your debt to income ratio, and that's basically looking at all of your monthly obligations against what you bring in every month. So, how much money do you actually have left to pay for a mortgage after you paid your credit cards, your student loans, your child support, your regular monthly obligation? And
Mm,
so that's really how the bank determines how much mortgage you can afford, because our goal is really to set you up for success for a product that you can afford, not that you'll stretch yourself to make. We want you to be able to comfortably pay. At least I do want you to be able to comfortably pay your mortgage.
beautiful, beautiful. Okay. So do you have a success story that you can share with us? Basically, like you mentioned, from reality to the big idea, even though they may have some gray areas here and there, but you got them ultimately to their goal.
Yeah, so when I think of a success story, I don't necessarily think of one that was like related to a dream home, but one that kind of gave me energy early on in getting into mortgages, and that I think about often is one in where there was a mom and dad that were renting a home. They had been renting a home for 40 or 50 years in Grand Prairie. And the dad had passed away a few years ago. Mom had been paying the rent. Kids thought that mom was paying the mortgage. Mom was one of those strong moms who really doesn't bring her kids into her financial struggles until it got to the point that it was, it got to a point where she had to. And that point was because the owners wanted to sell the property. So in the meantime, they had been doing home improvements to that property. They had done some things in the kitchen, done work, put a lot of sweat equity and time into that property. And so the mom could not qualify for a mortgage. However, we were able to have her son, who lives there, qualify for the mortgage, get the mortgage, and buy the home. And which kind of sucks, right? Because I'm sure when they moved in, that home was probably $20,000, if that,
Hmm.
and they bought it for $185,000. However, it did appraise for 260. So they were able to see equity, a substantial amount of equity,
Yeah.
and can leverage that later on to either do something to the home or buy other property to build that generation so that they don't find themselves in that situation.
I love that. So with that being stated, I want to know, what does generational wealth mean to you?
Generational wealth means knowing that what I'm doing today is going to positively impact great, 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 great grandkids that I'll never meet. Create a legacy that they can be proud of from a woman that they never met. Yeah, it's looking out for generations that you've not yet seen, right? It's making sure that they have the means. A lot of generational wealth for me also is in education, right? Just passing down the education, things that I've learned being in mortgages, things that could benefit them. But like I said, it's really leaving a footprint, a legacy for a generation that I will never see.
I love that. That was a good one. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and move over to our highs and lows. You can make this as
Okay.
one answer, or you can make it separate. But let's start with your highs. Anything that you're like, I'm so proud of Misha. Misha did a great job. We made it through.
Well, I will say my high is, and I'll show it to you. It is this book here. So I am actually a contributing author. That's me there. The book is called Shattered Hearts and Wounded Souls, and it's an anthology of women who have overcome domestic violence. And my contribution to the book is that I'm a child of domestic violence, and I did, have some struggles in adult relationships that I tie directly to my childhood. And the reason that was a huge accomplishment for me is because I'm an introvert. I'm very private.
Mhm,
I'm very introverted. And so I had never shared a lot of what I shared in this chapter before with anybody.
mhm.
So I'm proud of myself for finally getting to a place where I'm okay being vulnerable and I'm doing it for me. And so I applied myself for that.
Congratulations. That's
Yeah.
amazing. All right, so on the other end, if you can share a low with us, anything that made you just question your steps, made you question your vision, made you question anything. But on the other end, part B to that is how did you stick with it? Because a lot of times we give up, we're like, I'm done with it, we'll close the door. But you're still here with us today, doing the things that you love to do, right?
So I mentioned that for several years I could not find a job. I did go back to W 2 employment alongside doing mortgages last year. It was getting a nonprofit set up here in the Dallas area, and I was laid off at the end of the year. And that was devastating for a lot of reasons. One, that never happened to me, so my ego was bruised.
Yeah.
That was the biggest immediate hit. And then it just made me question, like, what am I really? It was a blessing in disguise, but it made me question, like, what am I really doing?
Mhm.
Right? What am I really giving my talents to? And what is giving my talents to those things going to do for me, for my family, for generations after me and my children? And I realized that the time and the energy and the effort and the esteem and the motivation and all the things that I thought that I was getting from that role um, were things that I was given to the role, given to the organization, giving to everyone else, and not given to me. And it really forced me to take stock of the talent, skills, and abilities that I have, even outside of mortgages. I love operations. I love process improvement. I love data analysis. And so, what I do also is I do some consulting on the side. And so, I'm still able to focus my energy in most of my time to mortgages that I love. But I'm still able to improve operations and improve processes. And so I'm able to do that with a small portion of my time.
I love how you're using all the gifts that you have versus
Mhm.
just using one. There's many layers to me.
Yeah, you get so many different things from different parts of yourself,
Mhm,
right? And if you're only doing one, you leave these voids because you can't get everything from one anything, one person, one place, one job, one anything. So
mhm.
yeah.
Yeah, you're like, "I'm open. Whatever we need to do, I'm gonna use my resourceful self to make it happen." I love it. Alright, so I know you mentioned your books. If you can just let the people know any upcoming projects, your handlers, websites, anything so people can stay up to date with what you have going on and connect with you.
Yeah, so I am on all the social platforms: TikTok, Instagram, Facebook as Mortgages by Mesha. I'm on LinkedIn, Mesha Miller. But yeah, pretty much all of the social platforms you can find me, Mortgages by Mesha. And online, www.meshamiller.com. Learn about mortgages, apply for a mortgage, reach out and ask questions.
Okay, she gave it to y'all, so y'all better make sure you tap in. All right, before we wrap up, we have two more segments. One is one free advice. I feel like a lot of times people pay thousands and thousands of dollars for advice, and a lot of times it go over their head, right? So if there's either one statement or one sentence, anything of that nature, just as far as advice for someone to receive it today that's listening and can act on it as soon as possible.
Yeah, I think something that I go to personally all the time and I say to others quite often is that comparison is a thief to joy. So when being in the real estate business, hell, being in any business, especially now in the world of social media and everything looks so good, the editing is good, the clothes is good, the makeup is good, everything looks like everybody's selling this experience. And in the real estate industry, it's a lot of that happens. And a lot of us are struggling,
Mhm.
but it looks very glamorous, and so you can fall into that place of comparing yourself to others. Oh, they've been in real estate for this amount of time, I've been in this for this amount of time, I should have X, Y, and Z because this is what I see
Right.
this person having, or this is the success that this person is having. Only compare yourself to yourself, because often people will show you all that they have and tell you all that they've accomplished, but they won't often tell you the resources they had. They won't often tell you about the struggles they've had. They often will not tell you about the help that they've received. So you could be comparing yourself to something that you are not even, y'all in two different resource piles, right?
Right.
Like you could be doing everything yourself. And so what you have accomplished, even though it doesn't look as shiny and great as somebody else, you could have worked 12 times harder to get where you are. So don't compare yourself to anybody else except yourself. As long as you're doing better than you was doing last year, yesterday, last month, then you're doing it, right? And don't worry about what anybody else got going.
I love that. That was good. Okay, so
Mhm.
we're going to wrap it up with our motivational moment. And that's usually a verse, a quote, anything that I see that, sparks my eye. I bring it on here.
Mhm.
Are you ready for your motivational moment?
Yeah.
Okay. So yours is opportunities don't happen, you create them. And this is by Chris Grosser. I'm so sorry if I am butchering your name. But yes, I'm going to say it one more time. Opportunities don't happen, you create them. So when I first saw this quote, for me, it goes back to what we were mentioning earlier with our different gifts that we have. If we just focus on one, so many opportunities can be closed because we're just seeing what's in front of us versus the bigger picture that's around us. And I feel like if you don't take those opportunities, you're going to miss out on growing. You're going to miss out on money. You're going to miss out on so many different things because at the end of the day, you're just focusing on what's in front of you. So in order to create these opportunities, you have to be open to these opportunities. And, basically, like you mentioned, you didn't transition from California to Texas. You were trying to see what it was in the workforce, but it wasn't working. But you didn't stick to that. You stuck to, okay, this is happening. Let me just go ahead and dive in over here. And it sounds like a plethora of opportunities came to you due to you still being in real estate. Like you were meeting people, you were helping people, you were educating people. You didn't stop at, ooh, me getting a job is not working. What do I do now? Because I think a lot of times when we see those downfalls, we're stuck on those downfalls versus seeing what God has over here. It could be amazing. The green, the money, the opportunities, the network. There's so many different things on this end versus looking how sad and gloomy things are on this end. So that's what I thought about. How about you?
Out of force. You've been laid off, or something has happened, and you have to dig and say, okay, now what can I do with this? Like you said, being open, right? Okay, well, I thought I was gonna have this nice job over here, being the director of this nonprofit, but that didn't work out. So instead of like waiting for an opportunity or looking for something in that exact space, I really just like had to go inside and like, what else? What can I pull from that experience? People that I've met, during the year that I was doing this work. How can I pull from those things and find and create new opportunity from myself? So I think, with opportunity, I think a lot of us, and I was guilty of that too. Like, God, I've been doing this great work, or I've worked with these people and they've seen my work, they've seen what I can do, and I'm waiting on them to present me with an opportunity or recognize something about me and allow me to have an opportunity. Well, most of my opportunities have come out of my creation. So you have to create. You have to create these opportunities for yourself.
I love it. And I think all we're saying is pretty much like take the initiative to make those pivots. If it's not
Yeah,
working, you may have to pivot and try something else.
you will.
All right, Misha, well, this is a wrap. Did you have anything you feel like I left out today? Anything you wanted to mention?
No, I think that's it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Look, thank you so much for joining us as a guest. This has been amazing. And if you guys are listening to this morning, noon, evening, or night, thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of What's Good podcast. And we'll see you guys next time. Thanks for joining us for another episode of What's Good podcast with your girl, Brianna Jovahn. If you found today's discussion inspiring, don't forget to hit the subscribe button on your preferred podcast platform. Explore additional resources on our website at what'sgood-productions.com and find our social media links listed in the show notes. Stay tuned for more captivating stories ahead. Until next time, stay blessed and keep uplifting your community.